Folks, for a lot of people, elk hunting is a bucket list hunt. And I get it. Like when you think of the Western US and you think of hunting, elk are some of the first animals that come to mind. But if you're from elsewhere in the US or even another part of the world, planning your first elk hunt can seem a little daunting. There's a lot of moving pieces, everything like that, but I can promise you it's never been more accessible. And in today's video, we're gonna walk through some of the finer points of picking where to go on your first elk hunt. I'm Matt with Deer and Donuts, and for those of you new to the channel, I'm in the process of planning my third different type of elk hunt. I've done in-state archery, out-of-state archery, and now I'm tackling an out-of-state rifle hunt. So today we're gonna go over some of the process that I've learned and some of the finer points in how I pick where I'm going on an elk hunt. The first thing you need to pick should be fairly obvious, but is the state that you are going to hunt. There's a lot of factors that play into what you're going to pick. I think the first one is really whether you're gonna do a draw hunt or an over-the-counter hunt. For those of you that don't know what I mean by that, a draw hunt is when you put in for your state's yearly draw and you just really pray that the fish and game gods are with you and that they pick your name out of the hat that year. These are not typically 100% guaranteed tags, and sometimes they take some years to get. With that said, if you have a bunch of bonus points or preference points in a particular state, obviously this portion is very easy for you because you've been building points for that for a while, and that is the state you are going to hunt. Your other option is over-the-counter tags. And at this point in Western hunting, there's a lot of different ways that they're doing over-the-counter hunts, but these are much more guaranteed tags. Now, Colorado is the only one I know of that's truly over-the-counter. You can show up to like Walmart and buy your tag. Idaho has this weird system where all the tags go on sale at the same time online in a portal, and you get to play the riveting game of trying to check out before it crashes. It's absolutely exhilarating in the worst way possible. But those are really your two options. And once you pick that, it's really gonna kind of dictate what states you have available to you. Next in picking your state is going to be budget for me. Now, I'm never gonna tell you a non-resident elk tag is ever going to be cheap, but there are states that are better for your budget than others. Colorado and Utah float you just over 700, all the way up to, if you go to Montana, it's over 1,000, and some Wyoming tags are even up to almost 1,300. So states really fall within that range of just over 7 all the way up to that 13, and you got to pick where in there you want your budget to fall. Point number 3 in picking what state you want to go to is really how far you're willing to travel. There's a lot of questions that you got to answer. Are you flying? Are you driving? How many people are going with you? And really, how long of a time frame do you have to be gone, and how many days of that do you want to dedicate to travel? Now, these are all super personal things that only you can answer. I can't really give you direction on that. I can tell you I've done hunts up to 20 hours away, all the way down to 4 hours away. And for obvious reasons, for the travel portion, the 4 hours was much more enjoyable. But that's not to say that that's the end-all be-all of why you should choose a state. Now, the final thing on why I pick a particular state is my weapon type. And it's kind of way down bottom of the list for me because almost every state offers the same types of tags: archery, muzzleloader, and rifle. But where those play in a little bit is you may only be able to get certain tags during certain dates that work for you in a certain state. Or a rifle tag may be easier to draw in one state versus the other. So depending on how you want to hunt, you're gonna kind of limit yourself on what states you have available to you. Now that you've kind of worked through that list and hopefully have a state in mind, even if you need to pause this video and come back, we're gonna pick your unit. Picking your unit is really a place where subscriptions or programs like Go Hunt or Top Rut can really come in handy. But if you're willing to do the legwork, most Game and Fish websites have all this information available to you for free. And the information I'm looking for is success rates, number of hunters, amount of public land available, and finally kind of my terrain and what I'm looking at. I'll throw a little caveat in there about population of animals, but most of these Western states have a decent population in most units you're gonna be looking at. The other thing maybe to consider is the bull to cow ratio, but these are never big things in me picking my unit. Breaking those down, success rates should be fairly obvious. Obviously, we want to be successful, and if you pick a unit that has like a 2% success rate, then your odds are not very high that you're going to tag out. So if you can find a successful unit that matches the 3 other categories that you're looking at, you're going to be in a good opportunity to succeed. Points 2 and 3 kind of play off each other. Obviously, number of hunters kind of affects the pressure that the animals are feeling, but that is directly affected by the amount of public land available to you. Obviously, the more public land available, the more hunters that unit can support. So don't just look at the overall numbers. Look at a ratio of hunters to amount of public land and really try and find a happy number in there. The other thing number of hunters can help you with is typically the masses are somewhat correct on the amount of population that that particular unit will have. If you got a unit with a decent amount of hunters, there's typically a decent amount of elk. I don't want to go to the most busy area, but I don't want to go to that unit that only has 100 hunters, because chances are there's a reason there's only 100 hunters there, and they're all going to be local people that have the info on where the elk are, and you're going to be really behind the 8-ball. The final thing is that terrain. We as hunters all have different backgrounds, different stories, and different skill sets. So your fitness, your age, your injury history, and kind of just the style of hunting you want to do, whether it be run and gun or a little bit more laid back, is really going to affect what terrain you can pick. Now, my piece of advice on terrain is that just don't overestimate your abilities. These mountains are really tall, the altitude can get to you really quick. Take what you think you can do and maybe dial it back just a hair, because you want to pick a unit that you can tackle day in and day out and still have it be fun through the duration of your trip. All right, so state's done, unit's done. Now let's pick where you're going in your unit. The first question I think you need to answer there is what type of hunting you want to do. Do you want to do a backpacking trip where you load everything in your backpack and don't come back to the truck until you're done or tagged out? Do you want to do a spike camp where you set up a camp a little ways in, but then you walk out from there? Or do you want to come back to the truck or even a hotel every single night? These are all doable hunts, but it's going to affect where you can go within the actual unit that you have selected. Now again, my advice here is that these mountains are tall, they suck. And having to walk up them every single morning because you hiked all the way out really is a drain on energy and, to be honest, motivation at times. With that said, if you can find a northern ridge or basin with everything you need, the food, the cover, the water, it's out of the way, it's in a hikeable distance for whatever style you choose, you're probably going to be in a good situation. You can make any of these styles work. It's just finding the areas within that range that work for you. Now, obviously, if you're willing to backpack, you're going to have a lot more country available to you, but don't limit yourself by just saying, I gotta go backpacking because I need the extra ground. If you're willing to put in the work and your homework, you will be able to find things within that range of just a day hunt. The other thing to consider is access. One can even get on the road. Your local Forest Service or Game and Fish office is going to be a great resource for you on what roads are passable and what roads are even open at the time of year that you're going. The other thing to consider is what type of vehicle you're using. Are you using a high clearance 4-wheel drive vehicle, or are you going in your Honda Civic? No shame in the Honda Civic, but it is going to limit you in the places you can go. So it's something to be mindful of, because the last thing you want to do is get there the night before opening day and find out you can't get anywhere near where you had planned on going. I think the final thing on where to go within your unit that most people kind of overlook is access to water. Now, if you're doing the day pack, day hunting thing, not a big deal. You're going out to the truck every night. But if you're spike camping, or if you're doing the backcountry backpacking route, you probably can't carry a ton of water with you. And it's gonna be something you gotta think about, finding that water source, whether it be stream, river, pond, whatever it may be. You gotta find some water that you can have throughout the duration of your trip. That's kind of how I whittle down going from all the vast Western United States down to a particular unit and even a spot within the unit that I'm looking to go to. Now, obviously there is a lot more to elk hunting than just picking a spot on the map. But this first video at least gets you out there, gets you to where you need to be and where you want to be. If you tune in next week, I'm gonna do an entire gear dump, pack dump on my rifle elk hunt and what I plan on bringing this year. So don't miss that one, guys. And if you want to stick with this series, go down, hit that subscribe button so we pop up in your feed a little bit more often. But until next time, I'm Matt with Deer and Donuts. See you later.